Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Bolt City podcast, special edition actually, because we said we'll see you on Sunday, but we said, you know what, there's too much to talk about. We got to do another show. There's too much going on. And guys, I'll tell you right now, I'm still upset, and upset about a bunch of different reasons. Not only did the team lose to Jacksonville in historic fashion, but at the same time, the coaching decisions they have decided to make, the guys they decided to keep and the guys they decided to let go. And we were kind of making tongue in, cheek about it, saying, they're guys who got up and went to the office building and said, I don't know if I'm going to come on with a job. But yet it was the offensive guys that were let go, which we pushed for the entire year and understood why. But the defensive guys, you kind of wonder, how did any of the guys on that staff keep their job? Any of them? Because going back to what we talked about after the Chargers lost to Jacksonville, just want to reiterate for all you people, and this is going to hurt, is the Chargers gave up a touchdown the last drive of the first half to Jacksonville, and then gave up touchdowns in every single drive after that in the second half, except for the game-winning field goal, which Josh pointed out in the last show. If they needed a touchdown, they would have got the touchdown too. Who are we kidding? Which means technically, the more I think about it, guys, and tell me if I'm wrong, there's not a person on the planet that could have done a worse job calling defensive plays than what the Chargers had on Saturday night. And not a worse job. If you're giving up a touchdown every single series, who's basically worse than that? You can't be worse than that. How do you keep your job?
Yeah, it's a great question. The defensive play calling was just as bad as the offensive play calling. Everybody saw the game in the second half where it looked like Brandon Staley was calling a prevent defense, where instead of guys playing 30 yards down the field, a regular prevent, they were just playing maybe 20 yards down the field. You can have 12 yards here, 8 yards here. And it's crazy. The firing of Joe Lombardi, he's complete scapegoat. He deserves to go. But we also said in the last show, Brandon Staley deserves to go too. We've learned now, we're recording this on Thursday, he's not going anywhere. The quotes that Brandon Staley fired off yesterday were wild to me. Right now, as Tom Telesco's quotes are coming in on Twitter, we're trying to update you guys as we get them. They're just as wild. I hope none of these guys run for office one day, because the ums and I thinks that these guys have are just make you not believe anything that they have to say.
Yeah, I guess guys that they Staley didn't do that good of a job. Like if you had a drinking game of how many times Staley said you'd have been hammered by the 10-minute mark. So if you're a Chargers fan that's just trying to get through the pain right now, there's a game for you to play. Yeah, going back to Jaguars game, it was the last chapter of the book on the year, and clearly the book was they play not to lose, they don't play to win. Then we had this press conference, and it felt like the same thing, is that you are coaching to not lose. You're not coaching to win. Like that's just where we are. That's where Spanos is. That's where this organization feels comfortable in being. And it is the most frustrating thing ever watching this press conference. Just going, where's the improvement? Where's the eagerness to get better? And I just didn't really. I'll give Staley this. He ended it good. He ended it answering a question of, yeah, I'm aware of the speculation. I had to be briefed about it for guys like you talking to Bill when he asked the question. I will give him that. That was a good football little FU question to end it. I will respect that. And when he was like, my family has heard it too. Just remember, I have a family. I'm like, no one, relax, man. No one's attacking your family. I'm just attacking you. Which I don't, come on. So I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts. And for people that are watching on YouTube, please watch on YouTube, Bolt City. Make sure to subscribe too, because if you hate our backgrounds, you subscribe to get more money. You also see me live react to the Bulls game as they play the Pistons right now. So a lot going on right now.
All right, I'll kick it off with a quote from Brandon Staley regarding the offense and Joe Lombardi. He first said, I just felt like we needed to make changes to the offense and the vision for the way I have us playing on that side of the football. I think there's a different gear that we can go to as a football team. He went on to say, talking about Joe Lombardi, we definitely improved as a franchise this season. We took a step as a franchise, and we earned ourselves a spot in the tournament. And I'm as frustrated as anybody that as a Chargers fan over what happened, because there's no one that's investing as much as we are. The first half of that football game, I think you saw the very best of our team. And then in the second half, you saw the places that we need to improve. Dave, what are your initial thoughts on that?
Come on. Okay, we saw the very best of your team. I'm sorry. I'm very, very frustrated by this, because as we get closer to the games this week and the playoff games that the Chargers should still be in, it's frustrating. There's so many things that bother me about what he had to say. One is we improved as a franchise. Well, you underachieved as a franchise last year. The place you are this year is where you should have been a year ago. So you're already a year behind of what we expected as a fan base. And then when you sit there and go, we took steps forward. Okay, you took one step forward. You took a baby step. You underachieved. And the fact how many times it was a running joke that, hey, can this team score more than 30 points or reach 30 points? It was insane with all the talent they have on the offensive side of the ball. Now, look, I understand at times you didn't have guys that were your playmakers. You had Justin Herbert who was injured. But there were times where those guys were on the field and you still weren't putting up the points that we expected. They weren't doing what they were capable of doing, and that's where Charger fans are upset. So how can you say you're going in the right direction? Right now, you aren't going in the right direction. It all starts with Staley, and his comments are very frustrating because nobody wants him here. I'm going to say it straight out. Nobody wants him here. And the guys like Derwin James and Justin Herbert and all that stuff, he's our guy. You have to say that because he's still under contract. He's still in the room. If you say anything different, you look like a jerk, and you're a young guy. Like Justin Herbert is a young guy. He's under the age of 25. But I'm not going to go all Aaron Rodgers where you start saying we need our coach fired. The fan base will say it for you. Ownership, this is where Dean needs to step in. And we spoke about this earlier in the season, guys. Is Dean the kind of guy to do it? And I hate to say it, he's not. And Dean has a history of doing this. He takes the easy way out. He's not a confrontational guy, never has been. Norv Turner wasn't a head coach. Good offensive coordinator, was not a head coach. It was a big mistake going from Marty Schottenheimer to Norv. Guess what? Mike McCoy, not a head coach. Anthony Lynn, not a head coach. Brandon Staley is not a head coach. This has been your biggest demise over the last 15 years is hiring these goofballs. And that's what Brandon Staley is. He's a goofball that maybe, honestly, if he got blown out this week, I don't know if Brandon Staley is offered a defensive coordinator's job. On what? Your resume is calling that last half against Jacksonville, and you couldn't stop Jacksonville. It's embarrassing. And so for Charger fans who want to say that the best of times are in front of us, how can you say that to us right now? You have the same jerk driving the car.
This totally reminds me of the video that's going around TikTok where the guy calls his friend and goes, guess what? Megan and I are no longer boyfriend and girlfriend. And the guy goes, thank God. Megan's the worst. And then he keeps going on about how much he hates Megan. No, she's my fiance now. That's exactly what this situation is with Justin Herbert and Derwin James. There's ways you can get around this. You don't have to say, I want him back. He's the best man for the job. You can say something along the lines of, this is up to management. This is their decision. That's a way of you not, throwing Brandon Staley under the bus, but you're also not putting your back behind him and saying this is the absolute best guy for the position. You made a great point there between coordinators and head coaches. Just because you're a great coordinator does not ever guarantee you're going to be a great head coach. We see it every single season. Brandon Staley, to me, falls under that category. I don't think he was a great coordinator to begin with, but he's definitely not a great head coach. So why not just cut the cord now and change up what you've done in the past? Dean Spanos has a history of doing this, this, and that. When he's done this, this, and that, it's never worked. The Chargers never won a Super Bowl. So why not change up what you've done in the past? Because if it's broken, you have to fix it.
My question too is also, what were the goals this year if this is a step forward? Like, was the goal just to make the playoffs? Yeah,
have
and like,
fun.
yeah, have fun. Party in the locker room after we lose to the Chiefs twice. What was the goals of the year? Because that's what it comes down to. So if you're gonna say we took a step, what was that step? So you didn't make the playoffs last year, but you should have made the playoffs. There's no reason why you should have lost. Or don't know the Raiders
To the Raiders.
Yeah.
To the Raiders. When it mattered. You lost to the Raiders.
So, literally. You could have tied them. Would have been fine. So that's the thing that just stood out to me. I'm like, so was the goal just make the playoffs? And then just from then on, we'll see. Because whatever a football coach will say, everyone says our goal every year is just go 1-0. Go 1-0. Go 1-0. Yeah, that is the goal. Because you can't focus too much in the future if you don't focus on the present. Agreed. But you also still have that goal of, okay, it's playoffs, it's winning the playoffs, it's AFC, NFC championship, it's Super Bowl. That is the arrangement. That's how you move up. And to me, that says, all right, you were undershooting this whole year. We started our first pod going, this is the expectations we have with Super Bowl contenders. And what it feels like is clearly Staley didn't have those goals for his team. Because if he did, he'd be sitting here going, we didn't do enough. We didn't do enough. Instead of saying, I'm happy where we are, he'd be saying, I'm disappointed in how this season went. That's what you would really be saying. Yeah, you can be proud of your guys for overcoming adversity and the injuries that they came with. One, that was your fault in the end. But you don't do that. Instead, you're like, yeah, we took a step. Dude, you took a tiniest step possible. If you took an ant and an ant took one step with whatever claw they got, I don't know, and then they went back. That was the step you took. You didn't take a big step. You still suck. And now you're in this position with a very talented team that you just lost a year with.
All right, so here's the deal. We Josh and I always, joke around and we talk about this. There's that guy that walks into a room and that guy's there, right? The guy, he's him, right? As we say.
Yeah.
The guy that walks in the room and you go, that's the guy. And so that, you know what I'm saying? The alpha male, whatever you want to say, that guy is. But from the time you realize it when you're a kid, you realize it when you're in high school. The cool guy walks in from the party, and girls notice it right away. They know who controls the room. There are certain guys who are head coaches in this league, and you go, that guy's a head coach, all right? I mean, I can sit there and go through these playoff coaches. Andy Reid, guess what? He's a head coach. He walks in, Andy Reid's there. Yeah, he's big as a house, but Andy Reid's there, okay? You look at Kyle Shanahan, you look at McVay, who and didn't have the year, but he won the Super Bowl last year. Those guys are the guys. You don't have to be the tallest guy. You don't have to be the heaviest guy, but there's a presence that you have. I'm sorry, Brandon Staley doesn't have that presence, and none of these Charger coaches I just mentioned had it either, and the players know it too. And when you have guys like Keenan Allen, who's hurt when they're playing the Browns, and he's tweeting out, WTF, what are we doing? And you're going, what is happening here? That would not happen on these other coaches that are successful. Mike Tomlin team sure as hell wouldn't happen. So you don't have a coach that is basically getting the most from your locker room, from your roster. When Joey Bosa spiked that helmet, that should have been enough reason already to get rid of Brandon Staley. And it wasn't Brandon Staley that spiked the helmet, but the fact that, hey, it's okay, Joey. Here, I'll give it back to you. I'll get it for you. And then he spikes it again in front of your face. It was just another sign that you have zero control of your team to get them to do what you want them to do. And is it extremely frustrating? Yes, it's frustrating. I'm not sold on Brandon Staley right now. I'm angrier today than I was on Saturday night with Brandon Staley's performance when I thought about you couldn't have done a worse job, yet you're supposed to be the guy calling the defensive plays. And you kept your job. And all those other guys who got you the 30 points are out. And those guys deserve to go for their entire resume for the season. Again, I'll point this one stat out because we pointed it out all the time. How many touchdowns after September 5th did the Chargers score in the third quarter? One. The offensive side deserved to go. But when the goddamn defensive side's a sieve, they got to go too.
Yeah.
Damn. And here you go, you're stuck. And guess what? Sean Payton, the rumor is Sean Payton's going to the Broncos. All right. That's the story right now as we do the show. Sean Payton's going to the Broncos. So now, guess what? The Broncos, you can see what they want. They got a little bit better. All right. That Sean Payton, if he ends up there, Super Bowl winning coach, ends up going to Denver, that's fine. There's another story that was out today, was interesting, and Mario's in Indianapolis, as I point out all the time. But do you remember when Josh McDaniels accepted the Colts job and then he backed out? Okay. I'm sure that was a big story when you were there, Mario. The reason he backed out, the story is they had Irsay over for dinner, and he was so bizarre in his behavior that his wife turned to him and said, "You aren't taking that job. You're out. We are not working for this guy." And they talk about it all the time, how important it is to work for good ownership. And it might be the most important thing ever to have good ownership. And right now, Dean, when Alex was the owner, not saying Alex was a great owner, but Alex was the guy that walked in the room and goes, "I'm in control." Dean doesn't like confrontation. That's why you have guys like Staley still there.
I can just imagine that conversation between Jim Irsay and Josh McDaniels. Like after dinner, Jim Irsay's like, "Do you want to go set off fireworks in the basement?" He's like, "No." It's like, what? Why would I want to do that? And why not? His wife's like, "We gotta get out of here now." But dude, talking about the guys that command a room, the alpha males, if you will, Brandon Staley's just not that. And there's not many in the NFL in his defense. There's just only a handful, I'd say. But he was asked about the Joey Bosa situation, about him throwing his helmet, and his response was, "I picked it up because it was right in front of me." And then his response that it was a sign that the locker room was being torn apart. He said, "Anyone that knows our football team knows that that isn't true. They know our locker room is tight and that we've made improvements in every way and that the culture of our team is as strong as ever. That's what I saw after the game and the next day as compared to a year ago, just how much tighter our locker room is." So as a fan, I look at that and I say, okay, you say your team's tighter. What does that mean to me as a fan? Because if you're not winning the game, I don't care how tight you are. If you guys hang out, off the field, great. Does that equal wins? No. So it doesn't mean anything to me that your locker room's tight. I want to win. So none of these quotes mean anything to me. All the Brandon Staley quotes yesterday to me were very empty and very misleading, because he kept saying over and over again, the common theme was, we've improved from last year. We've improved from last year. Dude, you didn't win a playoff game. So how much can you really improve from last year if you didn't win a playoff game last year? And then once again, you didn't win another playoff game. What are we talking about?
Your improvement is that you played one more game this year. That's your improvement. That's all you did. With a more talented roster, by the way, if we like to add. With another year of a franchise quarterback, I'd like to add. The part that really pissed me off, we talked about, alpha males, or just, the BDE guys, if you will, that walk into a room. When he was asked about playing the starters in week 18, and they're like, would you do it again? And he says it was tough to lose Mike in that game, but I think doing it over again, I'm proud of our process. And then he brings up how Tom Brady, one of the most durable players in NFL history, who has a crazy, weird diet to stay in his shape, who's also a quarterback that barely gets hit, compares that to Mike Williams, to a guy that's been injured all year, who, by the way, is going to get hit a lot more than Tom freaking Brady, numbnuts. That's what you're comparing this to? And then it's also, brings up the Giants in 2007 when they lost 38-35 to the Patriots, and then they play them again in the Super Bowl. Was that the plan? You're going to play You're going to play the Broncos again in the Super Bowl? Is that the script that you thought was out there for you? We hate to break it to you. The Broncos are in your division, so that wasn't going to happen. And by the way, sometimes in sports, what happens is what we call a fluke. Okay? That's what we call that. And sometimes the ball bounces your way in bold decisions. Ball didn't bounce your way, Staley. And if you haven't noticed, the ball doesn't really bounce Chargers' way in any of its history. So knowing all of that, be a little bit smarter and don't compare yourself to a Super Bowl winning coach when you don't have one. And don't compare players to the greatest of all time when they're not on your team. You can't do – it's like when he told all the Chargers players to wear black shoes to compare it to I think it was the 96 Bulls. It's a different sport. In the 90s. With, once again, the greatest player we've ever seen in basketball. What are we doing here? That's the dumbest. The Kings and NHL went out every day of the week during their playoff run. So do we want our guys getting hammered drunk during their playoff run? No, you idiot. You don't have your own identity. That pissed me off to no end reading that over and over again. I'm done with my rant.
Okay, so Staley doesn't admit a mistake. It was a mistake. You know what? Yeah, if I had to do it all over again, Mike Williams wouldn't have been in that situation. It's easy to say. I was wrong, but he didn't want to go that route. Joey Bosa, and I'm paraphrasing basically in his interview when they asked about his game, he went on to talk, and then he dropped a but in there. And as soon as you say but, as everybody knows, it means you didn't mean what you just said. And your apology and you taking blame for yourself, as soon as you dropped a but and say, but the referee, no, that means you just took it off yourself. There's no accountability from Joey Bosa. Nothing. And so that's the problem here is you have a head coach and you have a star player with no accountability. They're both coming back. Two guys that right now are scheduled to come back. So you go, come on, man, until you look in the mirror, which is the truth. The game film doesn't lie. Everybody saw it. It was the only game on national TV in historic form. You guys lost. It's very, very frustrating. And then the idea that things can repeat and be the same because you didn't make the right changes in the correct places, very frustrating. Staley deserves to take this heat. And the Chargers have literally told us, take it easy on Coach Staley. Okay. I appreciate that they listen to the show. Take it easy on Coach Staley. Man, you have to earn it. This fan base wants you to earn it. And you obviously have to be the guy. Anthony Lynn came out and made a comment about the 49ers. And look, this was a shot at the Chargers. The only head coaching job he ever had was with the Chargers. And what Anthony Lynn basically said was the 49ers go to no expense to basically making sure our guys are prepared and we don't take shortcuts. Two things bother me about that, maybe more than two. One is you take a shot at a team that gave you an opportunity as a head coach and you didn't have success. Okay. Matter of fact, Anthony Lynn might go down as one of the worst Charger coaches, and that's saying something. Okay. I was at every one of those damn games in person and watching him do things that you do in high school, not stuff that you do in the NFL. And then to accept the money and get paid handsomely, and then to still take a shot, I think is ridiculous. Also, Anthony Lynn, want to point out, and not defending the Chargers in this case, just your character, is the fact you've been with so many teams for a reason, because you haven't done your job. You would know, Anthony. You're with the Niners now. You're with the Lions. You're with the Chargers. You've been with multiple teams. The reason you've been with multiple teams is because you stink at your job. And see, to take a shot at a guy who paid you handsomely, and God knows he gave you more years than you deserve, because that's what the Chargers do. To run your mouth is another thing. You're like, where do you get off? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Anthony Lynn has no room to talk. Was Tom Telesco calling him and say, "Hey, Anthony, I want you to burn your timeouts before the fourth quarter, please"? I think it's a great idea, Anthony. Was he doing that to him? Because Anthony Lynn was one that couldn't manage a clock. So who are you to talk?
Not at all.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that never deserves to be a head coach again. He actually had that alpha male presence. And guess what? Didn't mean anything.
No.
Anthony Lynn was the king when it was 3rd and 7 or 4th and 7. And then he would sit there and run the clock down and ask like Philip Rivers is going to snap the ball. And then he'd walk away and blow that time out. And he'd sit there and go, Anthony, even if they jumped, it's still 4th and 2. You didn't get the first down. And they never fell for it, ever.
He got fired from Detroit.
Football.
He got fired from Detroit as OC.
You know how hard that is? To underachieve in Detroit is a whole new low. But yeah, you hit it, Anthony.
All right, so I want to read off some Tom Telesco quotes. He said that Justin Herbert's going to have an input on who they hire as the next offense coordinator, which I actually agree with that. I think the quarterback should always have a say in that. And then he says, this one is wild to me. On the potential of Justin Herbert's contract extension. We haven't even thought about contract extensions, but we want him here for a long time. I replied to that from Fernando Ramirez. I said, I haven't thought about eating today, but I want to eventually.
You don't play with this.
How do you say that sentence like in front of a group of people? Like that's like I wouldn't even think that in my head, let alone say it in front of a bunch of reporters. How do you say we haven't even thought about extending the franchise quarterback?
You know who thinks that way? The Baltimore Ravens. It's working out really well.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I mean, good God. Lock him up. Let's sell some number 10 jerseys. Lock him up. He's our guy. Okay.
Put on some Akon. Locked up. Let's go.
Even if you said you haven't thought about it, still don't say that.
Exactly.
Just don't.
Yeah. Why would you ever admit that? Why would you ever say that?
Yeah.
If I'm Dean Spanos, I'm like, how do you have this job? Why did I hire you? That's your one job, is to lock that guy up.
All you say is we're looking forward to sitting down with Justin and his representatives at the right time. And Justin's like, good. You didn't give a time frame. You just say it. Everyone knows that's the only move. Your only move is that move.
God forbid Herbert doesn't speak out and goes, well, I want that now.
He's not that guy.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's thank the Lord
right.
he's not. Or if he was, we'd be in a screwed position because our GM just said, well, I haven't even thought about that.
Justin's afraid to ask. Yeah, Justin's afraid to ask for extra pickles on his sandwich at Chick-fil-A. You know what I mean? He's not asking for anything. That guy doesn't ask for anything he demands. He'll take what you give him.
The Chargers are so lucky that Justin Herbert's not like a outspoken human being. The dude could erase hell so fast.
You're right.
Yeah.
Imagine if he had the talent he has, but he was the jerk like Baker Mayfield. It would be a disaster for us because we know he's in control. What are you going to do? Literally, what are you going to do as an organization? You need him. But he's not a punk. You actually have a perfect scenario for this team. He's been a great soldier so far.
If he was Ben Simmons by the NFL, he'd be in a tough spot.
It's a tough scene. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Real quick, I want to ask guys, 2 guys, all right, rumored as far as offensive coordinators go, Chargers. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Nathaniel Hackett. Down? What do you say, Mario?
It's so the recent head coaching thing's bad. Yeah. So I'm going to go thumbs down. I shouldn't diminish everything that was going on in Green Bay, but let's wait a little bit on Buddy,
Dude, you can't hire him. He's lost respect around the league, by players and everybody. It's like if you farted in class, you can't go to class the next day. You got to let that one ride over.
Yeah.
Hopefully people forgot,
Yeah, you got to hope for that,
Yeah.
And fair to me and Josh's point, the Jets are looking at him.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
No.
Byron Leftwich fired today by the Buccaneers.
No, because who is the only team worse than us on running the ball?
Yep.
Yep.
Buccaneers.
Yeah,
And on
no
first
bottom.
and 10 in every single drive against the Cowboys, he still said, up the middle for 2 yards. Let's go, Lenny. Like, I'm set.
So look at Leftwich over the last year, his decisions. Turned down the Jacksonville head coaching job, right, to stay in Tampa. And he turned down going back to his alma mater, Marshall, as the head coach. And now he's without a job.
I'm with Josh. The Marshall one.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, he chose it at one point,
Yeah.
They try to choose him back. He goes, no, that's okay. I don't want to do that. But anyway, those are two names that came up today that I was curious to know what you guys think. Both you guys are thumbs down on both of them, correct?
What do you think?
The Hackett one, I don't know. I keep thinking about what he did in Green Bay, but there's a difference. I understand when you have Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I understand there's a difference there. It's not like you're asking him to be the head coach. He's a horrible decision maker. It'd be one of those that'd be really frustrated where they always give the title of associate head coach. And you're like, what the hell does that even mean? And why is it always like the special teams guy? You're like, the special team guy is associate head coach? You sit there and you shake your head and go, what's going on?
Assistant to the manager. Assistant to the manager.
Yes, it's still from the office. Exactly right.
And he didn't call plays in Green Bay too, which is the other part that would scare me. Are we gonna get Denver play calling?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Anyway, those are two names that have come up, and as we're interested to see what direction they go. I'll be honest with you, I'm stealing almost anything that the Dolphins and the 49ers do. I mean, their offenses right now are the most fun to watch. Whoever you have that's available that you can steal from either one of those organizations, I would take.
I saw something on Twitter, and who knows if it's true, but it said the Chargers are leaning towards going with a younger, innovative play calling style, if you will, of like a Shanahan and a McVay, somebody that's younger, that's innovative, basically. That's who they want as their OC. And the first person that I think of is Joe Brady, right? He falls in that category as a younger guy. He's had a track record of success at LSU. That's who I want. And we said on the last show, Joe Brady would be the person I would want for next season. I'd actually feel pretty comfortable as a team, even with Brandon Staley as the head coach. If you have Joe Brady, okay, like I can deal with that. Maybe we have something cooking.
Yeah. And interesting. Real quick, want to ask you guys before we finish the show up real quick, as far as top quarterbacks who are left in the postseason. Okay, there are 8 quarterbacks left in the postseason. Curious to know you guys if you rank them. If you want, I'll go first if you guys aren't prepared for that question. But okay, here we go. I'm gonna give you my 8 in order. Okay, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Joe Burrow, number 2. This is where it gets kind of crazy. You guys are gonna argue at me. Trevor Lawrence, 3. Jalen Hurts, 4. Josh Allen, 5. Brock Purdy, 6. Dak Prescott, 7. Daniel Jones, 8. Those are in order of the guys I trust right now in the postseason, which is crazy because Josh Allen's all the way at 5. But as Josh pointed out, and he's 100% right a couple days ago, Josh Allen has turned into a turnover machine.
Yeah. All right. Well, first off, I got to disagree with you on Trevor Lawrence ahead of Jalen. What makes you put Trevor Lawrence ahead of Jalen?
I think Trevor Lawrence right now is just playing outstanding football. Normally, I would have said Jalen MVP
in the last football game.
Yeah, I got it, but he turned it around. He figured it out. Whatever the hell was going on in the first half, I don't know. If Staley's coaching against him the rest of the postseason, I like him a lot. I just think Trevor Lawrence has been on fire. The last 6 weeks, Trevor Lawrence has been insane.
He's been great, but hasn't Jalen been in the MVP conversation all season?
He has. Okay. I honestly, that's where I go. That's where my faith is. And I expect Trevor Lawrence to get eliminated this weekend. I expect Jalen to win. But as far as quarterbacks I trust right now, I'm going Trevor Lawrence.
And you have Brock Purdy ahead of Dak Prescott?
I sure do.
Why is that?
Why is
Prescott.
that?
I think Dak Prescott's 50-50. I don't know what I'm going to get from Dak. I don't trust Dak.
That's
Purdy's first half, though.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah. How do you see that game shaking out with the quarterbacks? Like, which quarterback do you think plays better?
I think Brock Purdy plays better. I think the Niners are so talented. I think the Niners, I mean, they honestly have the best roster in the NFL right now.
Yeah, the thing about the Cowboys, I don't trust their defense at all. I could see the 49ers like tearing them up through the pass or the run. Like, it won't matter, in my opinion. I don't think the game will be close at all.
Give me your 8. One of you guys, throw them out there.
I have the same list as you, but I'm putting Trevor Lawrence behind Josh Allen and Jalen, and then I have Brock Purdy and Dak switched.
Okay, and you have Daniel Jones last.
Yeah,
poor Daniel Jones.
So this is where we're about to be really different. So should I start with one? I'll go 8-1. How about
Okay,
that?
like
8-1. Yeah. So starting last, I'll explain myself. Starting last, I'm gonna go Purdy because I think that's all system. I think it's a lot of system, zero on his shoulders. So to me, it's like I go with Staley and see how
what
you.
happens.
Yeah, let's see if you're still Brock. 7, Daniel Jones. I'm not big on the hype train of Daniel Jones. I think you just faced Minnesota defense, and that defense isn't good. Then I go Dak Prescott at 6. Same thing kind of with Daniel Jones, where I think Prescott finally faced a defense that just struggled all year. Tampa Bay, that team was just falling apart. 5's Lawrence. And then 4 is Hurts. And then Hurts and Allen. Allen's my 3rd. Was really hard just because of how much Allen turns over the ball. Like you guys said, like it's just truly insanity. Yeah, it's crazy. But Hurts is there. The interesting too that like something that Allen doesn't do that I've noticed Hurts does, and actually weirdly Daniel Jones does, is they started to run a lot smarter. Like Daniel Jones runs smart. Like if play's broken down, he has nowhere to go, he just falls down. Which that probably sounds stupid in explanation, but like that's
no, you're right.
Football. Yeah. So yeah, 3 Allen and then Burrow, Mahomes 2. I mean Burrow then Mahomes.
Okay. We got time for the head coaches, real quick.
Yeah,
I want to fire through real fast.
Yeah.
I'll give you my 8 in order. Okay, you guys again correct me. I'm going Andy Reid number 1, Kyle Shanahan 2, Doug Peterson 3, Brian Dable 4, Doug McDermott 5, Nick Sirianni is 6.
Sean McDermott. You keep saying Doug McDermott.
Sean McDermott,
basketball player.
Sorry, I do. I keep doing the basketball player. Nick Sirianni 6, Mike McCarthy 7, Zach Taylor 8, and I know Zach Taylor was in the Super Bowl a year ago, but he's my 8th.
All right, what do you got, Mario?
So I have your first 2 the same. So Reed, Shanahan, going Brian. I have New York next. I love the way he's coaching. I still think that team's not very talented, even though every New York station like, oh, they're so talented. No, they're not. Just good coaching. Doug Peterson is my 4. McDermott is my 5. Sirianni is my 6th. I go Taylor, then McCarthy. I'm still not a believer in McCarthy.
I got the same exact list, Mario.
Are you? You guys are exactly the same?
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Get out of town, Dave.
There you go. There you go. All right, so there you go. Special edition Bolt City podcast. We'll be back on Sunday, right after all the games are complete. We're going to talk about what's going to happen, look at the AFC and NFC championship games, and also which coaches after this weekend could be on the hot seat. All that stuff we're going to discuss. Encourage you to reach out to us on Twitter. Again, you can follow us, as you can see right there on the screen. And at the same time, watch it on YouTube, comment. We appreciate all the comments. And obviously, the people are paying attention to this show. It's exciting for us and to know that we're kind of in the same boat with you Charger fans that are hurting as well. But we'll be back in a couple of days. For Josh Palet, Mario Herron, I'm Dave Palet. We'll see you next time on the Bolt City podcast, courtesy of Odyssey.